Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Whether or Not and to What Degree podcast. I'm First Alert meteorologist Bryan Bachman with First Alert meteorologist Chrissy Kohler. Thanks for hanging out.
Along for the ride today.
Well, it's going to be a fun one, I hope, yes. Because all the hype now we know regarding what's going to be happening in a few short days. We got the total solar eclipse. Last one was back in 2017. Folks here in the Carolinas know that one very, very well because you were right in the path of totality last time.
That's right.
And you were down in Myrtle Beach at the time, correct?
I was actually in Charleston. Yeah. So I believe, if I remember correctly from Kendra's stories, the upstate had a great forecast that day, and they ended up seeing the eclipse.
And Kendra was at Furman, if I recall.
I think that's right.
Via watch party they were having over there.
Yeah. So in Charleston, it was a little bit of a different story. You know, for the 6 months leading up to it, we were so excited. We're doing all these eclipse stories. Everybody's got their glasses. We're all ready to go. And then we had thunderstorms in the forecast.
Of course.
Yeah, it was great. But I was at the station that was right in Mount Pleasant, across right at the base of the Ravenel Bridge, across from the Yorktown there. And we had thunderstorms all morning, and we're all like so bummed. We're going to miss this cool event because of the weather. And right before totality, I would say about 20 minutes before, the skies just opened up just enough. We saw a little cloud cover around, but we were able to, in Charleston at least, be able to see that, which was really cool. Yeah,
that's awesome.
Yeah, so
I was in Michigan at the time. It was about an 80% or give or take partial eclipse. So that was still really cool. That's actually more in line with what here in the Carolinas we're going to see this time around. Unfortunately, we are not in the path of totality this time around. In fact, we can show you the map here across the country because even though, as is always the case, that path where you actually can see the total solar eclipse is painfully narrow. Folks all across the lower 48 here actually will see the eclipse to some degree. Now, the path of totality itself runs from about south central Texas straight on up through parts of Missouri into the Great Lakes and then kind of exits eventually off in northeastern Maine. So pretty well removed. You'd have to drive here if you're an eclipse driver. I'm going to actually be traveling to Dayton, your old stomping grounds, to go check this out this year. But that's about as far as you'd have to drive. You'd have to head to like southwest Ohio, southern Indiana, western Kentucky if you're planning on making a trip. But obviously anywhere in that path will do. Here around our area, I believe the Greenville area specifically, we're set for about an 82% eclipse. So still an impressive sight. You'll need your safety glasses, but you'll have a nice crescent sun to look forward to. And that's enough where it kind of starts to darken a little bit once you reach maximum. So
yeah, I was going to say you would know better than the rest of us, like what that's going to kind of look like for us here in the Carolinas.
As I recall, in Michigan, it was a little eerie, but like a good eerie, funny as that might sound, because at that level of eclipse, when you reach that maximum, even on a crystal clear sunny day, partly cloudy skies, whatever hopefully weather is cooperating in that area.
Fingers crossed.
Even with the sun in view, the light level is lower. It's more like the light level you would have on an overcast day. But the sun is out. So it's like a weird situation, but I don't know. I'm also a science nerd. We all are, so I geek out over that stuff.
When we put our glasses on and look up, we'll be able to see like that crescent, right? So the crescent sun instead of the crescent moon.
Exactly, yeah, and that's an important point to note here. In order to safely look at the sun here during this eclipse, you'll need your glasses at all times. You can take them off and look at the environment around you, just don't look at the sun directly. You can only safely do that when totality hits, and only when totality hits. So moving on from the map here, it goes from about 20% eclipse for folks in the Pacific Northwest, again, down to our 80 to 85% in parts of the area. I think even around Greenwood, it's around 79 to 80.
Like Greenwood, Prosperity, about 79, and then it's up to around 86 in places like Bryson City, up around Hot Springs in that northern part of Madison County as well. So and it's further north and west you go, although at that point, probably splitting hairs as to how much of a difference you're seeing.
Are you going to be able to say, that looks more like 83 to me? Probably not.
If you are that good at percentages of eclipse, you know.
Good for you.
Yeah, good for
you. You have some superhuman powers there. But
I won't be that good.
So I thought, in addition to kind of talking about where to go for totality, I figured we'd talk about some of the science. Why does this happen? Why don't we see them more often? Things like that. So we're going to bring in some of our virtual stuff here to kind of explain this a little better here for you. So the whole reason we can even have solar eclipses on Earth in the first place, because eclipses are not unique to Earth. It's anytime some object relative to another passes between it and the sun.
So Jupiter probably has a lot. With all those moons circling around.
Whether or not, it gets totality because it's got all those darn moons, who knows? It probably has a lot of total solar eclipses somewhere on the surface of Jupiter. But anyway, for our intents and purposes here, the reason we are able to have a total solar eclipse is actually thanks to this just coincidental but nearly perfect ratio. The sun, which we've kind of put over on the side of the studio here, is about 400 times larger than the moon is. So just to give you an idea of what that might look like, if we could fit the sun in the studio, shrink that down with the same proportions. The moon is this, I don't know if you can see it. Hopefully you can amid these stars. I tried to dim them to make them easier to see. But yeah, the moon is this tiny little speck compared to the size of the sun. Fortunately, though, we go back to our regular proportions here. We bring the moon back in. Luckily, while the sun is 400 times bigger than the moon, it's also about 400 times farther away from Earth.
There it is.
So the net result, for us looking at it here from Earth's perspective, looking at them both in the sky, they're both about the same size.
That's pretty cool.
Just a kind of a funny coincidence. You think about all that space. Earth is 93 million miles from the sun. The sun is so much bigger than even our planet, the moon.
Yeah.
But you have this just right, roughly ratio that, given the right conditions, the moon is able to, when it orbits around the Earth sometimes.
That's pretty cool.
Sit right in front for a couple of minutes and you get the dazzling display that is totality. But that's not the whole story.
No.
Because that might then beg the question with some people of, well, why then don't we have a solar eclipse or a total solar eclipse every month? The moon's constantly orbiting Earth, give or take about every 28 days.
Yeah.
So why don't we have a solar eclipse somewhere on Earth?
We get a full moon every 28 days or so.
Right.
So yeah, that you would think that, this should happen more often.
Yeah. So this is an ideal setup that I kind of put here. Now we're moving the sun to that side of the studio, and we got the Earth right here. I kind of put the pole through it just to make it easier to tell which way it's pointing.
Sure.
If it were ideal in space, we'd have the moon orbiting on this nice level circle around the Earth. If these were the conditions we had, that's how you would get somewhere on the Earth, in this case, somewhere on the equator, every month when the moon made its pass around the Earth. When you got to the new moon phase, you would get that total solar eclipse in these ideal conditions. But that's not how it works.
I remember learning about this in elementary school.
Yeah, so
it's tilted.
Yeah, it's tilted ever so slightly. The moon's orbit, as it moves around the Earth here, it's tilted by about 5 degrees.
Okay.
Not a massive, degree here, but still kind of it's tilted just
enough.
Just a little bit compared to Earth. But then here's the other catch. The whole system, combining the Earth and the moon, is then also tilted at a much bigger degree. And this is the one that more folks, from science class probably remember. It's the whole reason we have seasons.
23.5.
23.5 degrees, right? That's what gives us our seasons. That's why you have the Tropic of Capricorn, the Tropic of Cancer, because that's where the most direct rays of the sun move as the Earth orbits the sun throughout the year. We're not going to go into all that. All that's part of the science. But just kind of mapping it out here, as the Earth makes its way around the sun over the course of the year, there are times where the northern and southern hemispheres take turns pointing toward or away from the sun. That's why when the northern hemisphere is pointed toward the sun, that's our summer season.
Right.
And then winter is when the northern hemisphere tilts away.
Okay.
So just imagine that. That's why we kind of have the whole thing spinning here. So then you watch as the moon goes around, taking those 2 tilts into consideration here. I couldn't think of the word.
Sit there.
Then imagine as you see the moon going around there, imagine it's casting a shadow directly away from the sun. Like you just saw there are times where the moon is kind of too high, so to speak, in space. Yeah. This would actually be a solar eclipse right there because it's more aligned. Get another time like this where now that shadow at that time, it's a little too low. So you really need the Earth, the sun, and the moon to kind of be in this just right kind of alignment here for the moon's shadow to be able to be cast onto the Earth. That's what the solar eclipse is. It's when the moon casts its shadow onto Earth, just like in the case of a lunar eclipse for us, that's when the Earth's shadow is being cast onto the moon.
And that, I mean, that explains too why the last time we talked about a solar eclipse here in the U.S. was 6 years ago. And if you remember, the path of totality was completely different.
That's right.
And went in the other direction.
That's right.
It started in Charleston and went northwest across the country.
Right. Yep.
And now it's starting to the southwest and going up to the northeast. So, like, because of the way that this all works, you're never going to see kind of the same scenario.
Yeah.
Every time.
Because this is kind of how it's sped up here, obviously, but that's the whole scenario we have going here. The sun's not moving,
right?
You know, but the Earth is spinning relative to it, orbiting it at the same time, and then that moon's orbit that's tilted is also kind of pivoting around with the Earth. So, yeah, it's just this precise alignment that you need.
Well, and it's another 20 years before we have one here in the U.S.
That's right, yeah.
But I imagine there's going to be other solar eclipses in other parts of the world.
Right, yeah, because it's not like a lunar eclipse because the moon is so much smaller than Earth.
Right.
The moon's shadow, when it casts onto Earth, it's over a relatively small area. When it's a lunar eclipse, the Earth is much bigger, casts a bigger shadow, and the moon can, given the right alignment, also, we just had a lunar eclipse the previous weekend here that it was kind of a glancing blow with Earth's shadow, so wasn't really much to see, if we're being honest. No disrespect to lunar eclipses, love them too, but
I was
as
up
far
and looked
as,
at it and I was like, oh.
Yeah, if someone didn't tell you that a lunar eclipse was happening that night,
you wouldn't know.
You honestly probably would have looked at the moon and not known.
That's true.
So, but anyway, back on to solar eclipses here. Yeah, so that's just, again, you take into that size difference, but that distance difference that makes the sun and the moon appear about the same size in the sky. And then you just need the right alignment here. That actually would have been one right there with the moon passing by, where at least a small part of the Earth gets a pass by of that shadow.
I mean, three bodies kind of all lined up in the right order.
Yep.
Takes a little bit of work to get there.
Yeah, a lot of alignment over a lot of space to think about, just, again, the distances we're dealing with here.
It's a lot.
So when we get those conditions to align appropriately, where the sun is able to completely block out the moon, because obviously you have to be in the right spot on Earth, as we showed from the map before. You either get a total or a partial, or you get nothing at all. In the case of this one, this is where the path of totality is going to take us. So the moon shadow will come in, kind of crossing from Mexico into southern Texas around 1:27 Central Times. That'd be 2:27 our time here in Greenville. And this is just the path of totality, by the way. The moon shadow directly will settle in over the Dallas-Fort Worth area in Texas, Waco, Texas, by about 2:40 our time here. Continues on a generally northeasterly path, crosses from Texas, Oklahoma, into Arkansas, Little Rock, Conway, Hot Springs. If you know anybody out there, maybe if you're going to travel there, that would be a spot where you'd be in the path of totality this time around.
Could be hanging out at Hot Springs National Park and check it out.
Bingo.
There. Yeah,
perfect.
That sounds like a great trip.
Big open view of the sky. That's exactly what you want. Moving on from there, we go into a brief part of Missouri there. Then it kind of hugs the Indiana, Illinois, southern tip of Illinois border there. Indianapolis, Bloomington, Indiana, but just think Indianapolis, big major city, right in the path of totality there. It hits about 3:07
Eastern time.
Eastern time.
So that's the same time here for us.
Yes, and that actually will be about the same time we're maxing out. I think it's 3:08 to be precise here. But so it'll be that 82% eclipse for us, because we're just too far away from the path of totality this time. But you know, for them it'll be a complete total. Passes through Dayton, Springfield, clips Toledo, then heads on into Cleveland, Ohio by about 3:15. And that's impressive when you think about it too. That's another little science nugget I've kind of learned in all the research I've been doing for this over the last few weeks. The moon's shadow, you think about, it was about 3:05, or 3:07 rather, when it gets to about Indianapolis, Dayton. That's central Indiana.
Yeah.
Not even 10 minutes later, it's already directly over Cleveland, Ohio.
And I can tell you, from having grown up north of Dayton, that's a 3-hour drive from Dayton to Cleveland. Now, mind you, it's not a direct shot.
Right.
It's not 3 hours as the crow flies, but still, you're looking at a 3-hour drive to get to Cleveland, because you know that's where you got the theme park up there. Well, escaping my name. But the one with the Cedar Point. Thank you. Yes. So we used to go to Cedar Point. That's a 3-hour drive to get to Cedar Point. So yeah, in a span of a 3-hour drive, the shadow's traveling
It moves at about
10 minutes?
Yeah, it moves at about 1,100 miles per hour across Earth's surface, moon shadow during a solar eclipse. So it covers a lot of ground very quickly. So Cleveland, Ohio, 3:15, moves on to Erie, Pennsylvania, Buffalo, Rochester, Niagara Falls. I believe our director Courtney is going to be going to Niagara Falls. What a shot there to see that.
Yes.
And then the whole thing's over. The time zone there is Atlantic time. That's an hour ahead of Eastern. So by about 3:35 Eastern time,
done.
Totality's over, and pretty much the whole eclipse will be over at that point too. Even the partial phase will have moved on. But
that's crazy.
Yeah, like you mentioned, not quite that west coast to east coast trek as it was last time. This path, by the way, also wider than it was in 2017. This was something we really showed with our model there. But another factor that plays into the ability to have a total solar eclipse is that the moon's orbit, it's not a perfect circle. It's slightly oval shaped.
Yeah.
So that means there are points, we talk about supermoons throughout the year.
Yep.
That's when a full moon coincides with the moon being at its closest point to Earth.
Right.
Which also means there are times, obviously, where the moon is farther away from Earth in its orbit. This particular eclipse, compared to 2017, the moon's going to be a little closer to the planet this time. So that gives you a wider area where totality will be possible. The moon is slightly bigger in the sky, so it can cover up a little more of the sun, at least relative to our vantage point. And there's the potential that this may actually be a little bit more of a vivid solar eclipse. And I'll show some pictures in a minute here, but we'll get to why.
Well, and it makes a difference,
and speaking of pictures, we'll move on to these now.
Yeah, I was going to say, and it makes a difference, too, in the time, depending on where you are in that path. If you're, like, towards the outer edge, you only see totality for, maybe less than a minute.
Right.
But then if you get in that dead center of the path, I think you and I were looking it up, it can be as high as, like, 4.5 minutes.
I think it's close to 4.5, yeah.
So depending on, you can be in the path of totality and maybe only get it for 2.5 minutes, depending on where you're at. So it really comes down to exact placement of where you are as to how long you're going to see it for. It's
so true.
It's so crazy that it's just this cool event that we're leading up to and we're so hyped for, and that it's going to be in and out of here for some people in 30 seconds.
Yeah, the entire thing from beginning of the partial eclipse to totality and then to when the moon fully moves on, it's only about 3 hours.
Yeah, that's crazy.
It's just amazing.
That's crazy.
You ever want to feel like you're be able to see the moon in motion? There you go.
There you go.
Just again, make sure you're wearing your safety glasses. So that's all the science and all the factors that kind of have to come together here. This is what people in the path of totality will see. There's because it's not just, obviously, totality is the main event. Right. As you can attest to, you saw it in 2017.
Yeah.
That's the most dazzling, kind of awe-inspiring part. But there's actually so many things that happen, and you can attest to this too, over the course of that hour and 20 minutes or so between the start and totality, where the sky gradually darkens, especially as you get, I think, within about 10 to 15 minutes of totality, as it really kind of starts to get darker.
Right.
Crickets start chirping, birds that maybe become a little more active toward evening, they start to call. Animals, they just behave differently because to them, they think night is coming.
Yeah, it's crazy that you think about just these signals that so many animals out there pick up on just based off of the sun, and the sun, really the sun. At the end of the day, it's about the sun. Is when the sun's in the sky, they do certain things, and then when the sun goes away, they behave differently. And so you have this kind of transition to night in the middle of the day, and so the animals, they don't have watches. They don't know that it's 2 o'clock in the afternoon. So they're, of course, thinking, oh, hey, it's getting dark outside. Time to do our thing. So yeah, it's bizarre. It's just kind of an eerie thing to like see in the middle of the day, all those things that we expect to see at twilight and at night.
Yeah. It's 2 or 3 o'clock in the afternoon. And it's, you got like, and isn't it too, I think when totality officially hits, you've got like low dusk on the entire horizon in all directions?
Yeah, I would say I am not the best person to ask, since we had the thunderstorms that barely gave way. But, if you saw it up here, I would imagine, I've heard the stories of that. So I think, you can come back and tell us all about it after you get to see it.
I'm hoping the weather cooperates. It's the one thing, you can lay out all these plans, make your travel arrangements, but then You need the weather to cooperate.
We're sending good vibes.
Yeah, thank you. Appreciate it. And to anyone else who may be traveling too, and here. We still want to be able to see it here.
Of course.
It's not total. But some of the pictures here, getting to this. So there's some neat visual phenomenon that happen in addition to the birds and all that stuff changing. This picture here is within the last probably 5 seconds or so before totality hits. It's literally a blink and you'll miss it kind of thing.
Yeah.
But this little phenomenon here, just before totality officially takes hold, it's called Bailey's beads. And what this is it's like a little series of some small dots as those final little glimpses of sunlight are eventually covered up by the moon.
Wow.
And the reason you get these kind of more pinhole style points of light is because at that angle, at that moment, that's actually sunlight that's shining through valleys on the surface of the moon.
Wow, that's
so,
cool.
It's hard to make out that detail, obviously, from here on Earth, but, the moon is not a perfect sphere. It's jagged, it's rocky, it's hilly, just like Earth is.
Sure.
And to think that, again, this is literally, it's just a couple, like maybe 5 seconds where you could see this. You'd have to have a camera ready or be looking at it through your solar glasses because you would be able to see it that way.
Blink and you miss it.
But, yeah, just kind of a neat
That's really cool.
thought experiment kind of thing. It's like it's literally because that's just a little bit of light that's managing to pass through a couple of valleys or hills on the moon.
Well, and then, is that a solar flare?
That's actually might be a flare or a solar prominence. I think I have another picture of that. We'll get to that. It's kind of part and parcel of the whole thing here. If not Bailey's beads, like those very specific points of light, there's also something called the diamond ring effect.
Okay.
And if you just kind of look at this from farther away, it's tougher for us because we're close to the screen, but you at home can see this a little more easily. If you look at the silhouette of kind of that aura around the moon, and then this part where there's still a little bit of sunlight left,
there it is.
It kind of looks like the diamond at the top of a ring. And that's what you would see just before totality took over, or just after, as the moon begins to move on, as those first flashes of sunlight come back from around the moon. You'll see something like that. But so some neat visual phenomenon before and after, before or just after.
Bailey's beads and diamond ring.
Bailey's beads, diamond ring effect.
Wow, that's cool.
And this is actually totality itself here.
Okay.
What you're actually seeing, you're still seeing the sun.
Sure.
Or at least a portion of the sun during totality. This is obviously the moon in front. You got the silhouette there. The reason we're able to more safely look at this is because the brightest portion of the sun's atmosphere is what's being blocked. It's called the photosphere. That's where all the sunlight comes from. That's not safe to look at. But what you see during totality is called the sun's corona. That's kind of its outer atmosphere. It's fainter. It's safe to look at only during totality. If there's even a bright point of light, not safe to look at. You need to wait until totality fully sets in. And this is where I mentioned this particular solar eclipse may be a little more vivid this time around.
Okay.
Because what happens is the sun's atmosphere, Earth's is pretty active, but ours obviously is active in different ways. Ours has water vapor moving through it, but our atmosphere does a pretty good job of staying put close to our planet. The sun's atmosphere is very active, it's very tenuous, it's made up of all these crisscrossing, moving magnetic fields. So it's often streaming out in different directions from the sun.
Kind of up here.
Right, and those
closer in down here.
Yep, these little kind of like filaments that kind of fray away.
Okay.
Those are called streamers. That's the sun's corona.
All right.
And it's an indication of how active the sun is.
Okay.
Now the sun goes through about a 12 to 15 year cycle of high activity to low activity and then back up to high activity. 2017 solar eclipse happened around the solar minimum.
Right.
So it was still impressive, not trying to take that away from anyone. An amazing sight if you were able to see it. But what may be different this time around, is expected to be different this time around, is that this solar eclipse coming up April 8th is expected to be around the solar maximum.
Right. Well, like we've talked about this when it comes to the northern lights, where we're in that solar maximum over the next year. 2024 and 2025 are supposed to be very active.
That's right.
And so we think that the northern lights are also going to be more active, and maybe even occasionally. Just last week, they got pushed possibly down into Asheville. We ended up with crummy weather conditions.
Yeah, I couldn't see it.
But it was possible that had we had clear skies, maybe we could have have seen those here in the Carolinas. So it's one of those things that they all go, as soon as you said it, I was like, the solar maximum.
Solar maximum, yeah,
so
'cause
that's really cool.
Yeah, that's where the northern lights ultimately start. Those are solar particles hitting Earth's magnetic field, and then when they hit it, they become electrically charged, kind of like the neon in a neon light.
Yeah, science is all intertwined.
Yeah,
all of it.
Depending on what kind of thing is being charged, that dictates what color it takes.
It's really cool.
Green,
really cool.
Yeah. So this actually is a picture from the 2017 solar eclipse. So you got your streamers, you got a pretty amazing sight there, but the thinking is that when totality is reached with this one, the corona is going to be a lot more volatile, streaming off in different directions.
That'll be really cool.
Do I have? Yes. Okay. You mentioned the solar flare, solar prominences.
This is so cool.
Yeah. If you're lucky, and I believe this is from the 1999 solar eclipse, which was when the sun was much more active. So you can even kind of see it here.
Yeah.
You have a lot more noticeable, there's a lot more detail in the sun's corona. But what you also have here during totality, and you can see these, as long as they're visible enough, you can see these just with your eyes. It's a combination of, they're called solar prominences. We talked about how the sun is just made up of all these magnetic fields moving all over the place. A lot of times, depending on the way those magnetic fields are moving, material from like the sun's surface will kind of stream up and away from the surface and then arc back down somewhere else. So it almost kind of creates these long like tubes or arches of just solar material.
Yeah.
That's plasma, that's hot, unfathomably hot material. But during a solar eclipse at totality, because the brightest part of the sun is gone, you may actually be able to make those out.
Which is so cool.
And since we're at a solar maximum, there's a good chance there's going to be a lot more of them, because the sun will just be more active. If you're lucky, you might catch a solar flare. While there's no pictures of one during a total eclipse, the thinking is that if you see a solar flare as it actually happens, you would probably see just like a large eruption. I don't know how fast it would move relative. I'm kind of taking educated guesses on that one, but it is a possibility if you get the timing right.
Yeah,
but
that's really cool.
Yeah, all kinds of different things. I mean, you could see them. There's a bunch up here, a couple down here. They're just all over.
Well, it just the color differences. You see the yellows to the oranges to the bright pinks and purples. I don't know. It's really, really cool to look at.
And just to clarify, for those of you watching this, this is not. There's no filtering here. This isn't like a colorized picture. That's it.
This is
those
real.
prominences, those little eruptions that you might see during totality, those are actually pink, orangish things. So they stand out like that. Another picture kind of on a why thing, because while totality, of course, is the main event, it's the focus when you get there. And this is actually what we were talking about. This is what the sky would tend to look like, except it'll look like sunset or sunrise, but in all directions.
That's cool.
It'd be a 360 sunset, some scientists call it. But what also happens is, since the sky gets dark enough, if you look over there closer to Chrissy, in this picture, that's actually Venus.
Okay.
We normally see that before or after sunset. I think Venus is... Are we in a morning viewing for Venus, or are we... I think we're evening viewing? Venus alternates between being a morning planet, star.
I know Jupiter is in the evening right now.
Jupiter is evening. So I think Venus is morning,
I think
maybe.
Lost sight of Mercury. Although we might be able to see Mercury during this.
Exactly.
Because Mercury's pretty close to the sun.
Exactly, yeah. That's always the challenge in seeing Mercury. It's usually too close to the sun for us to see it, except out of maybe like an hour before or an hour after sunrise or sunset. But you're right. So point is, the sky darkens enough that you'll be able to see some of the brightest planets, again, weather permitting.
Yeah.
You'd probably be able to see Jupiter and Venus. Those are pretty much a given. Mercury, if you look closer to totality, you might be able to make it out if it's bright enough. And like you said, I think it was at one of the elongations where it's at its brightest recently.
It was just this past Monday. This past Monday was the day where we had the best view, and probably the last time we'll be able to see Mercury for the rest of the year, for the rest of 2024, because it only ever got to about 19 degrees separated from the sun. So it was right after the sun went down, with about 40 minutes on Monday morning, or Sunday night, Sunday night was the best time to see Mercury, because by now it's now into the twilight sky. So like it's too close to the sun to really be able to catch it at this point.
Bummer.
Yeah, I know.
But you might get lucky during the eclipse because it gets dark enough that you'll see that. And there could be another added bonus this year of something else in addition to Jupiter, Venus, maybe Mercury. We talked a little bit about the Devil Comet.
Ah, yes.
That is expected.
Is so excited about this.
Yeah, well, it's kind of a neat thing in some of its photos. The way it's erupting from the angle we're viewing it at kind of made it look like it had horns coming out of the sides of the comet. Pretty neat.
Yeah.
But the thinking is, while as we move into early April, we won't be able to really see the comet at night anymore because it'll be, I believe it precedes the sun.
Right.
So it'll have set by the time the sun does. During the eclipse, you may actually be able to make it out. So if you're in the path of totality, weather's cooperating, sure, take a look at totality. It's an amazing sight, but, this is more of that environmental, all around you kind of change. It might not be the only thing that you're able to see.
Don't just look up, look around too. Yeah, that Devil Comet was fascinating because I guess it only comes around every 71 years.
Right.
So this time around they'll get even more information about it because technology has advanced so much in 71 years.
That's right. Yeah. Last time it passed by was in the 50s.
Yeah.
So.
But I guess it typically when these comets get closer to the sun, they tend to like spurt off from all directions on a comet, but for some reason this particular one only has 2 spots on it that are shooting off these sprays or these around the nucleus, and so it's coming off, like you said, looks like a devil horn. So that's why this one is kind of unique compared to some other comets. And pretty cool.
So solar flare you might see during totality, prominences, if I could say that correctly. The sun's corona may be more active. Stars, planets,
so many things.
Dusk, weird animals acting strangely.
Yeah.
It's a full experience. So many different things happening kind of all in a relatively short span. And so to kind of cap this off then here, just to reiterate again, unfortunately, not in the path of totality for us this time around, but we are far from going away empty-handed if you want to get your eclipse viewing on. If you're staying local, weather permitting, will be anywhere from a 79 to 85% maximum. A nice crescent sun. What did Kendra call it? Kendra and Justin, they were talking about it on the news recently, and we got a kick out of it because Kendra called it a moon sun.
A moon sun, okay.
She was thinking crescent moon, but she was trying to say sun, so she said moon sun. But if you want to take that, go ahead and coin that. I thought that was pretty funny.
And, we are here at Fox Carolina are going to be bringing live coverage that day of the eclipse. We'll kick off our coverage about 1:30 in the afternoon. We're going to be live. We're going to be bringing you coverage from all over the country, the path of totality, so you'll get to see it. Even if you can't travel to totality, we'll be bringing you live coverage of that. And, of course, doing some local cut-ins here, letting you know what's going on. Myself, Kendra Kent, Chief Meteorologist Kendra Kent, and Fox Carolina First Alert Meteorologist Catherine Noel will be kind of spearheading that coverage throughout the day. Just so, again, if you're at home, and of course we want you to step outside and see it for your own self, but if you want to see the path of totality, we'll be bringing it to you live as well.
Yeah, we'll get you some looks at that.
Bryan will not be here with us for the coverage because
I'm taking
he'll
a trip.
be seeing the path of totality.
I'll bring back pictures. I'll try to take a time lapse maybe. I'm hoping that the weather cooperates and we don't have to try to drive too much that day because I know it's going to turn into a zoo very quickly. If you are headed to the path, by the way, just make sure that your car is fully gassed up. Be prepared for backups.
Well, and the interesting thing is like having been through that before, especially having lived in Charleston for the tourists, it's the after effect.
Right.
It is leading up to totality. Typically, it's more of a trickle effect of people trying to get to where they want to go slowly throughout the morning hours, or relatively slowly. It's after the event is over that everybody's trying to leave at once.
All right, we're going. Let's go home.
That's when you need to pack your patience.
Show's over. Let's get out of here.
Exactly.
Some of the advice I've seen, and I will be taking, pack a cooler.
That
way, if you do get stuck in traffic for a while, you got some water, drinks, some food, so
great idea.
So you can,
like you said,
hang that out.
Make sure your car is fully gassed up there as well. So,
but wherever you're going to be viewing it from, do your best to get a look at it. But especially if you're headed to the path of totality, because as you alluded to before, this is the last total solar eclipse that'll be visible anywhere in the United States until technically 2044, but it's just a tiny portion of northern Montana. There is going to be another coast-to-coast total solar eclipse not for the entire country, but along a narrow path,
Yeah.
in 2025. Or excuse me, 45.
2045.
So it's not going to be for another 21 years if you want to catch one to any big degree here in the United States.
I'm hoping they'll still be around for that.
You mentioned they'll still. You mentioned, obviously that's just the United States. They happen all over the world,
Right.
depending on the timing of everything. I believe Australia has one in 2028.
Okay.
Sydney, actually directly in the path of totality. Could you imagine Sydney Opera
in
House,
Sydney?
total solar eclipse?
That sounds cool. That's like a bucket list thing. Yeah.
Right?
If you want to go to Australia, that's a good time to go.
And one last nugget here. I'll leave you with this. Next total solar eclipse that will be visible in Greenville. Any guess on when that might be?
Ooh, probably after we're dead. Just kidding.
Hopefully not. Not that far, but it is far.
When will it be?
54 years from now. If my
Ooh.
math is correct. 2078. May 11th, 2078. That'll be the next time you can stay right here in Greenville.
I'll be with my walker.
Catch a
Walking
total solar
outside to
eclipse.
catch that one.
Yeah, I think hopefully we'll be retired by then.
Hopefully. Ooh, if I'm still working, we got bigger problems. Well, thank you so much for all of this amazing knowledge, Bryan.
Thanks for hanging out. I know this was a long podcast, but hopefully you enjoyed it.
Yeah.
I've loved just becoming a whole total bookworm about this stuff and researching all of this. This is going to be fun. You mentioned the day of coverage. I got a couple of stories I'm going to be putting together about all this stuff too. So yeah, we got you covered on all fronts here.
Yeah, and if you're listening to this podcast on your, say, Apple Podcast, Spotify, or anything like that, you can also head to our website, foxcarolina.com. I think we referenced a lot of things that are visual to go along with that.
Quite a bit of visuals in this, yeah.
So we do post the podcast with the visuals. So if you're listening along and you're thinking, I really like to see what they're talking about, it's on our website, foxcarolina.com.
Yeah, head on over. But in the meantime, safe travels, safe viewing, and have a great rest of your day. Thanks for tuning in.